Hi, today I'm doing another kind of like update review. I did a review on the Strange Angels series, books 1 to 4 by Lili St. So I did that review already and the link is down below. And this is kind of like an update on the next book, the 5th book, called Reckoning. And it's the final book in this series as well, so there's no more after this. And it was out, I think, on the 1st November, so fairly recently. If you've seen my other review on the Strange Angels series, you know that I loved books 1 and 2, and maybe 3. And then book 4 wasn't as good. It was just kind of followed the same thing as kind of books 2 and 3, and nothing new was happening, and the main character got kind of whiny. But the 5th book I was kind of excited about because I knew it was going to be a lot different. They weren't going to be in a school anymore, and you know, Drew was on the run. Not really on the run, but she kind of left the school with Graves and Ash. So I was like, oh, this will be really different and it'll be really good. For some reason this book, I didn't love it. Originally I felt like the writing style was quite easy, but now I feel like the author kind of overthinks things sometimes. Like she is a good writer, but it's just the way she describes things or describes scenes, it's just not the easiest to kind of imagine. And I think the problem really is that it could be a 4-second scene, say like a hand going back to hit someone, but it will go on for about 2 pages. The author likes to drag out a certain action sequence, and I'm like reading it, but I'm like half paying attention to it because it's so dragged out and over kind of described a bit, and Drew has a thought about every little inch movement. It just slows up the pace and takes away from the scene as well. So the writing style wasn't as easy to get into in this book, I felt. And as well, I know it's the final book, but there was like a melancholy feeling over the whole book, particularly the last quarter. And I wasn't pleased with the ending at all. You know, the ending to a series, I understand, is really hard to get. You don't want to make it, oh, happy ending, perfect for everyone, but you want to put in it, you know, some things that give satisfaction to the reader and doesn't, you know, leave too many questions lingering. But I don't think the author accomplished this completely. There are some things in this book that I wanted to happen that did happen, so I was really pleased with that. Like, there are good parts to it, and you know, Drew stepped it up. Like, at times Drew was kind of like a crying mess, but other times she did step it up and become really like a strong kind of Svetaka, and I enjoyed reading, you know, some scenes, particularly the scenes between her and Graves. I just loved them together. But yeah, unfortunately, like, the series started out so positive. I was so positive about it, and then towards the end it wasn't as good. My sister kind of summed it up really well, actually. She said Drew spends too much time talking or thinking and not enough time doing. That's exactly what the problem with this book as well is, I think. So, I mean, if you've read the other 4 books, I mean, you have to read this one. It's the last one, so I definitely recommend that you read it. But it wasn't my favourite book in the series. There were a few faults in there with the writing style, the whole pace of the action, and Drew's character at times. But, I mean, yeah, you should read it, because there were good moments as well. So that's kind of the spoiler-free review. So now I'm going to move on to talk about the details of the book. So if you haven't read it yet, I suggest you switch off now. Okay, so the thing I said about I've been waiting for it to happen, that happened in this book. Well, there was kind of like a triangle between Graves, Kristoff and Drew, and I always loved Graves and I always wanted them to get together. And thankfully in this book she admitted her feelings and said she loved Graves and Graves admitted that he loved her. It was just really sweet and romantic, and it wasn't just like romantic love actually, it was like friendship love too, because they do have a strong friendship, because they started out together and went through so much together, and they came out of it not 100% whole, but they did survive it. So I really like their friendship and their relationship. Kristoff, I'm not crazy with Kristoff. I just don't understand him really. I just don't understand his character and why he's so devoted to Drew. And he is devoted to her, I felt, more as a kind of bodyguard, protector, rather than a love interest. Yeah, what really bugged me, the way Drew, she thinks and talks too much. Sometimes she thinks too much, but she doesn't say enough. And when Graves told her that he loved her, and she was just all in her head, and I was like, oh, I wanted to shake her. I was like screaming in my head at the book, but she's just so like, it's like getting blood out of a stone with her. You have to push her. She would not admit anything back, and for ages she was just like, what did he say? Did he really say that? And it's like, yes, he did say something back. And it's kind of like the two of them, like he was kind of angry. I don't think he was angry, but he was in his own kind of weird headspace, and she kind of was, and they weren't really communicating at all, and I was so frustrated with that. And it wasn't until the very end, or maybe when he gave her his blood, they finally got things kind of out in the open. Oh, it just took a while. I wasn't happy with the ending. Well, I kind of was in that, like, they admit they loved each other, and he promised he'd be back, but he left. What an unfinished ending. Like, he left, and we don't know if he really came back or if they got together. Anything. I was hoping the epilogue would be maybe a few weeks or a few months later, and we get to read about him coming back. But no, it wasn't. That was such a disappointing ending. Like, just her and Nat sitting in the room, and nothing really pointed towards what was going to happen with her in the future. Yeah, disappointing ending for me. I felt it was a bit too late in the game to be bringing in this new element. Are they called the Maharaj or something? These like magic users, sorcerers, and they were brought in the last book. I'm not sure if they were mentioned in previous books. And Drew finds out at the very end that she's related to them, and she's not part vampire, and she's kind of part these kind of sorcerers, and that was it. Like, they just made a deal with the vampires, and that was it. So I felt that was kind of brought in too late. That could have been so interesting, and if she did another book, maybe we could see what would happen with her and Graves, what would happen to her and the sorcerers, or maybe like, because Sergei is dead now, what would happen to her and her role. But no, they were just kind of like unfinished things for me. So that made me just kind of unsatisfied with the whole ending to the series. Positive things. It was exciting to read, about her, Ash and Grace kind of running from these vampires and the school, and although sometimes it was kind of, there was nothing really happening. Like, I felt like the author didn't have a proper direction of this book. It was just like in her head, oh, they'll be on the run for a while, and finally she'd get captured by Sergei and kill him. I think that was the author's only plan. So a lot of the time it's just the same thing, kind of going from hotel to hotel, maybe meeting up with Kristoff, and then maybe she got separated from Kristoff, so she was on her own for a little while. Sometimes she was really emotional, and she was kind of like a mess, and I was like, where is this hunter's daughter? Like, she's not, at the beginning she was quite, strong, independent, and she was taking control of the situation, and then the minute Kristoff comes into it, she's just kind of like a mess. And then when she's on her own, and when she has to kill Sergei, she's kind of strong again. So I felt Drew was kind of up and down. At the end, then she just ended up being a mess again. So Drew's character wasn't portrayed great in this book, but I mean, the positive things, it was exciting, and when she got captured by Sergei and he was taking her blood out, and they were like, how is she going to get out of this? Anyway, that's my review. There were some positive things in there, like the excitement and Graves and Drew's relationship, and I suppose the development in characters, but I suppose how it was all put across was the big downfall, and the ending was the big downfall. So, I mean, check it out. It's the final book. I kind of, in one way I'm sad it's finished, but in another way I'm kind of like, it's done. You know, it's fine. I can always go back and read it later. So, yeah, so thank you very much for watching, and if you do end up reading it, let me know what you think.